Hello, psychology students. So we're going to watch a lecture by me on theories of motivations. Now, you're going to be filling out this worksheet as you're going through. I should have handed this to you in class. Just make sure that you're listing the names of the theorists and the researchers. I may not mention them all. You may want to also look in the book in chapter 11, module 29. Also, I'll be going over the main ideas of each of these theories, explaining motivation. So let's get into it. So motivation is a very interesting thing. It's very complex, and you may notice that for some people it's very easy to motivate them, and for others it's very difficult. And you may also find that many people are motivated by different things. Sometimes you don't really have to tell someone to do something; they just motivate themselves. And other people, you really just have to provide like a lot of rewards, a lot of incentives, and compromises. And we'll get into these theories and possibly that they can explain, why someone is motivated or why someone in your life is not motivated. So let's get into it. We'll be going over lesson objective 27.1 and 27.2. In another video, we'll do the other motivations over eating, sexual behavior, achievement, and human and animal motivation. So very basically, here is the definition of motivation. Of course, you should know that. And another important concept for all the theories of motivation is the idea of extrinsic motivation. And I'm sorry, I did that backwards. Extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. And they're pretty simple. So with extrinsic motivation, this is anything outside the body that rewards you. So, for example, getting a candy when you do something nice, or getting paid for a job, or you want to turn in an assignment on time to avoid getting a late penalty or getting a 0. These are all extrinsic motivators that come from outside the body. And there's also intrinsic motivation, which comes from within, inside the person. So, for example, someone who does extra credit, they may be doing this for an extra grade, but they also may be doing it because they really love the material and they just want to understand the information more deeply. So right there, you can tell that there's really not a lot of actions that are completely extrinsic or completely intrinsic. There's a lot of things we do that are both extrinsic and extrinsic. For example, me teaching. I love what I do, but I also like getting paid. So I have extrinsic and intrinsic motivations for teaching. All right, so let's go over one of the first classes of theories. So this is the instinct approach, and it's highly physical in nature. So instinct is any biologically determined or innate behavior. So for example, eating, sex, sleep, these are all instincts. Some people also argue aggression, for example, that men are more naturally aggressive than women, for example, which ends up not being exactly true. And the instinct approach says that a lot of our motivations come from our instincts, and that a lot of our behaviors are motivated for similar reasons as animals. Now, this was a very early 20th century theory, and for the most part, it's no longer true. But the idea that we have physical needs that need to be met, and we're motivated by hunger, we're motivated by sex, we're motivated by aggression. These are still true ideas. There's drive reduction theory, and it's a pretty simple idea. I feel hungry, so I go out and get food so that I can reduce my hunger. Or if I have a need to be intellectually stimulated, I go out and I get a book, I read, and I reduce my need for information. And so a drive is essentially the same as motivation. So when we say that someone's motivated, we say that they are driven, that they move themselves. So a drive is a psychological tension Like it's a conflict in the mind, it's imbalance, it feels awkward and uncomfortable, usually because of a physical arousal. And it drives you to get that need met and motivate you to do the behavior or the actions required to fulfill the need and to reduce that tension. This also assumes that physiological needs cause internal drives to push the organism to satisfy the need and to reduce tension and arousal. So, for example, you have low glucose in the bottom corner that makes you hungry, that makes you motivated to eat. It raises your glucose, your sugar in your blood. You feel less hungry, you don't eat. You're back to normal. You've reduced the drive. Now, a very important idea is that there are two different kinds of drives. There are primary drives, such as those that come from the body, like hunger and thirst, and secondary drives, that things that are learned through experience, like money or being liked, social approval. And what motivates all drive, the mechanism of drive, is homeostasis, the tendency of the body to maintain a steady, normal state. Your body wants to be in equilibrium. Your body wants to stay the same weight, which is why it's so hard to lose weight if you want to lose weight. It needs the same amount of sleep. Your body doesn't like change. It needs your body to be nice and steady and stable. And this is an example of homeostasis. And this does, in fact, motivate some of our behaviors. But these two previous theories, they are very good at explaining physical motivations. They're not very good at explaining psychological motivations. So it's been found that we have a need for achievement. So we need to accomplish goals. We need to challenge ourselves. Affiliation. We need social interaction. We need friends. We need relationships. And we need power, the need for control or influence over others. Now, for some people, they may have a high need for achievement, but not really a high need for affiliation. And the opposite is true. So all people are not going to be equally motivated to have these things. Some people don't care about having power at all, which may in fact explain why some people have no desire to control others. But these are to some degree a need in all people. Also, there's arousal theory. And so in this theory, we need excitement. Our body needs energy. And that there is an optimal or best or ideal level of tension that they seek to maintain by increasing stimulation. This is also referred to as the Yerkes-Dawson law, stating that performance is related to arousal. Moderate levels of arousal lead to better performance, then do levels of arousal that are too low or too high. So, for example, easy tasks require a high level of energy, whereas difficult tasks require a low to moderate level of energy. And that's described in this little pyramid here. And so, according to arousal theory, to do an easy task, we need a lot more arousal. So things like turning in homework or doing vocabulary cards, we need a certain amount of arousal to do it. It takes a while to get enough energy to do it. But anything that's really, really difficult, we don't need that much energy. In fact, if we're given too much energy or too much coffee, our performance tends to go down. Also, sensation seeker, we'll skip that. But there's a certain idea here that what motivates some people is to seek sensation. And that doesn't necessarily mean jump out of an airplane or go on a really high roller coaster. It could simply mean I want to go to Europe. I want to backpack through Europe for a month. Get out of my comfort zone and seek arousing, exciting experiences. Or I want to go on a road trip to Vegas this weekend. Those are all examples of sensation seeking. There's also the incentives approach. We kind of talked about this before last week, but an incentive is anything that attracts you or lures you into an action. This is very similar to extrinsic motivation, so rewards. So for example, if you turn in your assignments early, I'll give you an extra 2 points. That's going to be true for the research experiment project. And this also relates to expectancy value theories. So this assumes that humans cannot be predicted or fully understood without understanding that beliefs, values, and the importance of a person attaches those beliefs and values at any given moment in time. Bottom line, I'm not going to be motivated to get a good grade in the class if I've always gotten an F, if I always expect to fail. And so that has to do with my beliefs about my own ability, my beliefs about the future, my values. Is this grade important to me? So if you want to look at why someone's motivated, you might want to ask them what they believe to be true, or what they expect to be true, or what they think is going to happen after they study. If they don't believe studying matters, they're not going to study and they're not going to do well. Self-actualization. Now, this is part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is a nice, neat little theory. This is one of the humanistic theories, and it attaches a lot of physical needs and psychological needs. So self-actualization means that you've become your fullest self. You've reached your potential. And there's a lot of different needs that you need to get there, including physical needs, need for food, need for belonging, need for beauty and art. Peak experiences. These are times in your life, either temporary or a little long term, where you feel self-actualization. And the main idea is that you try through the course of your life to go through your various levels of needs until you reach your potential, and you reach your potential more and more often. So this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you can pause this at any time to take a look at these. But basically, this assumes that you cannot get to this level, safety of need, feeling safe, unless you have your hungers met. I've noticed teaching in public schools, it's very hard for students to learn, to know, to understand, explore if they're too hungry. A lot of them don't have breakfast in the morning, so I'll often have to give them breakfast to assist them in their cognitive needs. There's also self-determination theory, and this assumes that there's a certain mix of social motivations. I have a need to belong. I need to be part of a group. I need to be autonomous. I need to be free. I need to be competent at what I do. This is another humanistic theory. I think that is it. There it is. That's the last one. Take your notes, and if you need to look in the book, take more notes, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.